Onegaishimasu. And starting with Zazen, feel free to sit as you need to. Relaxing weight under side. Keeping the skeletal structure very bright, very open, very spacious. So again, it's like silt or particles drifting down through water, but the water stays buoyant and expansive, but the particulates settle through it without pulling the water down with it. So we stay open and spacious with our structure, the tensions and weight drift down like a stone making its way down to the bottom of the lake. So in general, weight underside. Then you can get specific, play with that in different areas. So the breath itself settles into the lower abdomen or right into the pelvic girdle, bowl of the hips, settles to the lowest point. And then every part of your body has a lower edge. Of course, this is the opposite of weight upper side. Everything comes to the upper edge. So practice weight upper side for a moment, contrasting for the sake of contrast, makes things more clear, more obvious. Weight upper side, generally everything, weight underside. Weight upper side. Now, when you go to weight underside, watch out for anything being pulled down and drooping. The weight upper side, weight underside, but keep the structure nice and open. So watch out for any being pulled down at all. Once again, weight upper side, every part of the body, it's up. Even your breath is probably tightening, right? Breath coming up too. And then weight underside, but keeping a nice spacious shape. Now, let's kind of have fun with that and experiment with this. Different areas. Just the breath. Weight upper side with the breath. Consciously making weight upper side. And notice what happens and how it feels. And then just the intention of weight underside, specifically with the breath. We'll try it with other parts of the body. Shoulders, specifically shoulders. Think weight upper side. And you don't even have to do anything physically. Notice that it happens automatically. If you just think weight upper side, your shoulders come up a little bit, or at the very least tighten. And then just think and feel weight underside, specifically for the shoulder girdle. Shoulder plane. Once more, just think weight upper side for the shoulders. You probably notice it affects the breath too. It affects everything, really. But specifically relating to the shoulders, weight underside. Now, try that with your throat. Weight upper side. Consciously on purpose. Weight underside in the throat. Once more, weight upper side. That's the sound of my voice. So I do upper side in the throat, weight underside. Try that with your ears. Weight upper side to the top points of the ears. Weight underside. Water dripping off the earlobes. Weight upper side at the ears. Weight underside. Come back to the breath again because it's probably getting a little uptight. Upper side with the breath to really contrast and really appreciate the weight underside experience, feeling. Try that with the eyeballs. Weight upper side under eyeballs. Keep the weight there for a moment. Notice the tension that ensues, even in that small little area. And now allow and intend weight underside, bottom curve of the eyeballs. Weight upper side, eyeballs, weight underside. Notice how that affects your face in general. Okay, your brows, eyebrows, weight upper side, weight underside. Once again, weight upper side, And then on the brows, weight underside. Now, we'll just give you a moment to do other areas of your body, kind of play and experiment with that. Contrasting. Weight upper side, weight other side. Once in a while, reminding breath to go weight underside. Go to different parts of the body. Notice the difference. And now emphasizing and dwelling with weight underside. Of course, we want to emphasize that and develop that. So do it globally, generally, through the entire body, and also going to different parts if you'd like. So just give you a moment to work weight underside, practice and develop that globally and individually. And just tune your attention to any area of your body that's still kind of stuck. For example, I'm noticing the throat a little bit is not as weight underside as largely the rest of the body. So that distinction, that difference, part of your body or a part of your body, it's not just being relaxed into weight underside. It'll start to show itself in your awareness. Notice parts of your body that tend to really be chronically weight upper side. Notice that part or those parts. And then giving it more attention to dissolve into weight underside. So notice those parts that are not releasing into weight underside as much as other parts. Release the breath. And keeping weight underside as we come to standing, as we go into other movements. Again, a very helpful imagery you often use is hanging from a string. That's something that we borrow from Tai Chi vernacular. A Halloween skeleton dangling from elastic, not pulling up. We're always dangling and hanging. Or like another imagery is a garment, a suit jacket hanging on a hanger. Not crumpled up, pulled up. It's naturally hanging. So even as you come up, notice when you're pulling up, you can stay settled. Open and spacious, like settled. Just like the suit jacket is open, you can stick your hand in there. It's open and spacious, but it's dangling. Take that into your standing. Release the abdomen. Weight underside. So right now we can specifically focus on the fingertips if we want. Weight underside to the bottom points of the fingertips. And anywhere else in the body you want to emphasize, weight underside. What about the chin or the jaw? And again, the earlobes, eyeballs, the breath itself. What about the entire hip girdle? Weight underside. Even the feet individually, not even talking about the rest of the body. If this is my foot, allowing the weight of the foot itself to sink to the lowest edge, lowest plane of the foot, to the sole of the foot. Of course, that's going to help the entire weight of the body settle. But again, for the practice, just the foot, the feet themselves. Weight of the foot gathers, accumulates, settles the entire line of contact with the floor. And then let that sensation and experience percolate upwards to affect the rest of the body to also release and settle. Allowing the weight of the foot itself to gather, accumulate on the bottom, sole of the foot, whatever good stuff you get from that, transfer that and expand that through other parts of the body. Let me know if you have any comments or questions with the process. Take this into Minucci. As we take a stance, take a moment to get all this stuff back. Because just going from here, just a simple movement to here, I didn't notice where you pull apart and deviate from what we've been doing so far. So if I exaggerate, I'm doing this standing here, way underside, settling the weight, keeping the body open. Now I go into a stance, everything tightens and comes up. Everything tightens, everything, guaranteed. It's just a matter of degree. Some people may be a lot. And for even those of us that have been doing this work for some time, guaranteed there is some level of pulling in, some level of weight upper side is a term we're using today, or weight underside, phrases we're using today. Guaranteed, just going from here to here, there was some degree of pulling in, pulling up. So let's explore that and study that. Come back to here, standing. Let's take another moment to get as much of that back as we can. Whether that's imagining and feeling water dripping off your fingertips, drops of water falling from fingertips. Again, that's just a colorful imagery to get weight underside. Take a moment to get weight underside without, again, any commensurate drooping, weight underside. And in fact, as you let the weight settle, eventually, not only does the body not collapse, but it triggers the body to be even more open and more spacious, even more space in the joints. Let's just take a moment to work with that. Hang out, working with weight underside as we've been doing. This is a little step further ahead. It's a little bit more intentional and energetic, but it feels very, very good once you are able to tune into it. Extremely releasing, opening, and freeing. So not only do I allow all the weight to settle to the lowest points, and instead making sure that we don't have an ensuing pulling down the body, we keep it open and spacious. Well, not only does the body not get pulled down, in fact, it's released more and more and more and more in open, expansive direction. So as I release and allow weight to settle, as weight underside continues, you can make an intentional connection. As you continue that weight underside, it actually continues to make the body more open, more spacious. Continually. Continually. There's a direct year-like connection. As you settle the weight underside, not only do you not get pulled down, but you're actually, again, physically, if I was to kind of mime it, my body's becoming more open, expansive, taking up more space energetically, and therefore somewhat physically. That happens continually if I continue settling weight underside. See if you can find that ongoing, continuous feeding, fueling, triggering of that opening, expanding. So that's an intentional connection you make, an intentional kind of year relationship you make. The more I settle, the more I release down, the more I relax down, I can make an intentional connection that structurally and spatially opens my body more and more and more. So I become more and more rooted and grounded. At the same time, I become more and more empty, light, open. Yin and yang, two things at the same time. Because I have continuing weight underside, weight falling, weight sinking, hanging from the string. The energy continues settling down, deeper and deeper into the ground, weight underside, weight underside. Getting more and more connected and grounded. And because I'm triggering that and connecting it to a continuing opening, expanding process, I just get more and more empty, and open, and light as I get more grounded. A marriage of yin and yang, a marriage of solid, grounded, with light and open. Once in a while, remind yourself to release the abdomen because that's a major junction where things get stuck and it disconnects upper and lower body. So this is a major junction, not just the front, but the back here. The lower back is notorious for separating the body between upper and lower. You have to remind yourself continually to release the abdomen and hang the hips or lengthen the lower back. Then we become one unit, a unified shape. Otherwise, there isn't a transfer of information, there isn't a transfer of energy, there isn't a whole experience. Upper body and lower body are having different experiences. So point the tailbone down, put the sacrum, slide down, release the abdomen, and allow the weight to continue to fall through the legs, through the feet. And as the weight settles and sinks through the legs and feet, it directly opens the body. And then just for, again, a little bit of fun here, I'm playing with this a little bit. Let's go specifically with the arms. Focus and work with the arms specifically. Water dripping off the fingertips. And as the water drips off the fingertips, that water falling, it's actually going to be pulling your fingertips down. Your arms are growing longer, not because you're trying to do that, but because they're dripping longer. Like the tissues of the arms drip off the bone, and the space between the bones increases. So your arms, weight underside so much that it's pulling the arms towards the ground. And the shoulder joints and all the joints in the arms open and release. Even the joints in the fingers. The pulling down of gravity, the weight underside process, pulls the arms long right to the ground. Like the muscles of the arms are soft, warm rubber. And they're just through gravity and weight underside, those tissues are being pulled right to the ground. The space in the shoulder joints, elbow joints, wrists, fingers, the spaces open and increase. And then take that to the whole body. Imagine the hips just free falling away from the upper body. So the hips just fall into the ground, keeping the back crown of the head connected to the ceiling. Weight underside, weight underside. Now, we're about to step into a stance, forward stance. We won't even do anything with the arms right now. I want to showcase the separation away from these relaxing, opening principles and qualities. It happens to all of us. It's just a matter of degree. Try to keep it. We've got a fair degree of that in our standing. That's why we do standing practice, because it's relatively simple and straightforward. We're not moving. But as you simply take a forward step into a stance, the forward stance, notice what you lose and to what degree. Come back, take a deep breath or two, weight underside, even the out breath is weight underside. Get that back as best you can, whether it's thinking of feeling the dripping from the fingertips, weight underside, through the whole body, whatever really clicks for you. And then don't really try to lose it, try to keep it. But you're developing refined awareness, micro awareness. Notice the tiny little bits, tensing and pulling. For example, in that one there, pretty much keeping weight underside, pretty much keeping a lot of the qualities the same as I step, but not 100% completely. I noticed not too much pulling up, not too much weight upper side, but I did notice a tightening of this hip as I shifted the weight to this leg to step with the other leg, the tightening around the ball joint, around the hip here. Tightening, pulling in. Not to a great extent pulling up, but there was a tightening, pulling in, shirking in. Not necessary. In fact, I can go the opposite direction. I can release it, hand it open, to step, to shift the weight to it instead. So then I'll come back and I'll emphasize that area, keep weight underside, focus more. That quality, feeling in that area. Maybe just more directly going simply the opposite direction of the tendency, which is contraction. So I'll focus on that the next time I take a step. So extra weight underside, extra opening. So that was pretty good there that time, but I noticed a little bit of pulling in the abdomen. So developing this micro awareness. Come back to it as best you can and notice the deviation, separation, just going into a simple step. The abdomen is a big one. Solar plexus, almost anything and everything triggers the solar plexus to tighten. Almost anything and everything. So try to really refine your awareness and notice those tendencies. And it's only then that they can be changed, right? When we notice them. So that's just simply stepping. Now, a little more macro move, stepping into Minucci. And notice what's deviating, what you're leaving. So, for example, this is happening, guaranteed. How do I know? So I notice it in myself. So probably happening with you. I have to make it big. Eventually, it's very small things. And those small things become very big in your awareness. So I have to make it big so it's visible through the screen. As I went into Minucci, again, I have to make this big. I'm leaning. It's pretty obvious there, but let me do it more to the extent that I was doing it. I'm leaning a little bit. And it's not so much that I'm leaning, but that these long muscles are tightening. So they're holding a little bit. Certainly if I'm leaning to a degree, those long muscles will tense and tighten. But even if there's really not much of a lean, just the holding, the bracing. Notice any bracing and holding. And if I can just hang with gravity, let gravity free fall through me, let my weight completely free fall, then these muscles, these long muscles along the spine can totally let go because they don't have to tense to hold me up. If I'm hanging, allowing the weight to free fall, those long muscles along the spine can just be open and just dangle. And the long muscles along the spine are chronically tight. Lower back, upper back, neck, everybody has all those issues. They're chronically holding on. So if I can get the hips under the head, hang the hips, free fall the hips, and then get that through the whole spine, those chronically tense muscles can let go. Because I'm supported by the ground in my legs and not holding myself up against the angle of gravity. So notice, see what you can notice. And even as your arms come up and forward, keep weight underside. Like water continues to drip. Water continues to drip down, regardless of the shape I make. And of course, water dripping down, what that really means is the weight is always dropping. The weight is always settling. The weight is always sinking. Because normally it's coming up here. So like water always dripping, the weight is always settling. So notice when that's not happening. Release the abdomen. Sometimes, often rather, a very specific area to really work with are the shoulder joints. Because the shoulder joints are more accessible to people's awareness. And once you can get the shoulder joints you can start to work with other joints in your body. So see if you can release and feel an opening of the shoulder joint. So this is physical, it's literal. There'll be space that opens in the shoulder joint. And then eventually, even though you're doing movement, they'll continue to open. Hang the hips, release the abdomen. And then see what you lose when you do a tenkai. See when and where you lose. And remember just to hang out. Imagine and feel you're just doing regular standing, or maybe even sitting in seiza. Even though we appear to be moving, in your mind, feel as if you're just hanging vertically in the standing posture. And that will help correct your shape and your posture and your movement.
So Sensei, I'm noticing something. You mentioned this in a prior class. I think it was around Showman, but the idea of not coming on your foot, but coming down onto your hip joint.
Yeah.
When the more precise my attention is on that, the easier it is to kind of keep that sense of dropping the hips and having that underneath. And I just wanted to kind of check, does that kind of fit with your sense of, like, in this forward, as soon as it's about landing on the foot, I've broken the upright.
Yes, and so that's really useful and important with this drill because we're turning and continually shifting the weight forward. So that's another place we can focus on in the body to prevent a leaning, or more specifically, a lurching forward. So when I shift the weight forward, don't think of, again, what tends to happen is people are upper body oriented. And so their weight's going here, and that pulls them, takes them, again, fires these muscles. So instead of thinking of your weight going forward or your upper body going forward, as you shift the weight forward, it goes straight down your hip, down the back of your leg, down your heel. If you don't have that intentional vector, you're probably having some lurching forward, some extension from your upper body. So if you think and feel that your weight is not going to your the front of your foot, but going right down your hip joint, down the back of the leg, down the heel. That just that mechanic will automatically keep you more straight or automatically prevent as much of this lurching. And eventually you'll take all that out. So the weight's going to drop down here. Right down through that hip, not down through that foot, because see what happens when I do that. So as you do that tenkai, each time, you might even do a few without the arms moving. And you can even use a tactile approach. Right down here, down here, down here. So almost like a mini squat. Let me show you what I mean. For a squat goes right down. When I have horse stance, it's not as apparent because I go in terms of the hip joint because I'm going down between both legs. But a squat is down. So if I treat this like a little mini squat, the weight doesn't go forward. It's a squat, but mainly in my front leg. This isn't a squat. This is a squat. Well, we're not actually going to do a squat. Not quite, like a micro squat. We are going to be settling the weight down that same point, just like you would with a squat in a forward stance. So when you shift the weight forward, drop straight down here, down this hip here. And not only does that keep you straight, prevent the lurching, it grounds you. It sends the root straight down. And when you have a sense of that tactile experience, when you bring the arms into it, notice how much that lurches you forward, throwing your weight out there. Okay, so this is interesting. Staying with this process. Again, the normal thing is when I start doing this, it's already happening a little bit. It pulls me forward, right? Through an intentional vector, using an intentional vector, the swinging of your arms forward can only help accentuate sinking more down here when you make the intentional gears, when you make the connection, the intentional vector. So again, normally this will tend to pull me forward. I can now make the intentional vector, connect the gears, so that the swinging of my arms goes down here. So even the propulsion and momentum of my arms, I can direct it, add to that dropping down here. And when I do that, and if you're trying this, maybe you're noticing it as well. When I make that intentional vector, that even my arms are going down here. See if you notice it. It actually corrects my Minucci. My Minucci gets more elbowy. I get a nicer, clearer bend, sharper elbows. If I think of even the momentum and the throwing of the weight of my arms, that's also directed right down that hip, not out there, not even down over my foot, but the throwing of the weight of my arms is directed down here. It changes and corrects the shape of my arms and elbows. Let me know if you notice that or other things you might be noticing. And now I'm much more stable. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, there's this great down here, but there's also the line from the back heel that's part of the popping up, really of the elbows, right? Yeah.
Sorry, the back heel is doing what?
Well, for sure, a lot of the action is in that front hip, but I find like in coming around and committing to that, that also creates this buttress of the back heel that these just pop up. Your arms just pop up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. So you're discovering other connections. That's tremendous. Discovering other connections, other integrations. So that is tremendous. And that's happening kind of naturally. You're discovering them, they're revealing themselves to you. And so that's developing of your awareness and finding organically this integration and connection. I'm really enjoying how this just again organically, naturally corrects my Minucci and makes the elbows much more vital, much more sharp and vital. And not trying to do the arms at all, not trying to, it just happened to me for me. So again, see if you can just throw those arms forward, but of course that's happening from the back heel, right? And the stronger, if you get a sense of this, the stronger you throw them forward correctly from the back heel, the more you get power and dynamic energy going down your front hip. So this is all a matter of setting up intentional vectors. You can create anything you want. So the difference between, okay, strong Minucci, which is pulling me off, so it's disintegrated. It might be strong, might be fast, but it's not wholly integrated. Making the intentional vectors and the connections, I can send that down my front hip. I can send it anywhere I want. But a good place is down that front hip. And then no matter how hard I send my arms, where before it'll take me more off, the harder I do it now, the more it grounds me and settles me and corrects me. And so everything is integrated, even though I'm doing something very strongly. Pressing off that back heel, roll the arms forward, I can direct all that momentum where I want it to anchor me, stabilize me. So that's a matter of awareness, integration. So if you're getting a sense of that, see how strongly you can throw those arms and yet can have that ground you more and more, anchor you more and more. You can have a lot of dynamic power and speed and be integrated, open and connected. Taking that feeling of connection into our misogi, alignment, open expansiveness, centered settledness. Open expansiveness, settled centeredness. Aware of your alignment,